Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show after Arsenal have won yet another game. This is nice. I like this. Arsenal winning 4-1 away at Leeds. It's nice talking about victories, isn't it? You join me for our 8 a.m. show, typically the Arsenal transfer show, but the days after games do tend to be more focused around the fixture. And because I wasn't around yesterday evening to talk about the game in more detail after the match, I'm here this morning to talk through it with you guys in the chat box. So please do drop a like on the video. And we are very, very close to hitting 28,000 subscribers. If you could hit a subscription, if you've not already done so, then please do hit that subscription button and we will be very thankful that you're helping us reach that next step on our journey. And not only that, but we're very close to 20,000 followers on Twitter as well. You can follow myself at Tom Kenton Media, but you can follow the Gooner Talk account at the Gooner Talk TV on Twitter. It's nice that as Arsenal are doing well, things are progressing here as well. It does go to kind of show, doesn't it, when things are looking up, that things here are looking up. And I think those two correlating is a very positive thing. Good morning to everybody in the chat box. Hope you're doing well. We've got Kaiser, we've got Paul, Matt G, David Blashik joins us too, Stevie, we've got Matsu, Kian, Manouche, we've got Rich, Axel. We've got, who else have we got? Terry, Niall, we've got Steve, we've got Social, Christopher, Napa Fire, we've got Femi, we've got Daz. I love Daz. Daz just reminds me of that old, is it a washing detergent make? The old adverts I remember used to go around in the UK. If you're very young, you might have a clue what I'm on about. But that's what Daz reminds me of. Neil, Social, John, Rancid Pumpkin in the chat box as well. Thank you so much. There's so many more of you. Apologies, I can't read through all of your names, but keep throwing in your comments, and I am sure that we will be going through plenty of your thoughts and feelings. Just to kind of give you my feelings and where I'm at on my short monologue of the game, the caveat is always going to be, and I think the caveat for a lot of kind of the haters is that it was a very weakened Leeds side, which it was. They still had a lot of their first team players playing and available, and they still offered threat, certainly on the counter, and we allowed them arguably a couple of too many chances, maybe considering the situation of the game. What I would say is that there are games like that Chelsea have played against a very weakened Everton side and been unable at home to break down and win their fixture, whereas Arsenal were excellent. They were dominant, they were really incisive, they played some really high quality attacking football that could have broken down any side at full strength at times. It was brilliant to see the quality of passing, the movement, the style that's now growing under Arteta as well. That's always been the biggest thing, hasn't it? It's been about how Arsenal have played their games and whether or not you can actually see the style, the ideas, something that you can get on board with. And during that 10-game unbeaten run that we had, there were big questions around the games against Norwich, Newcastle, Watford, Burnley, and these games. I think Brighton is also another, and Crystal Palace too. And despite the fact we didn't lose any of those games, it was really difficult to see an established style. It was difficult to see where we were trying to go with what we were doing. And whilst we weren't creating too many high-quality chances, we were solid defensively and we weren't really losing games. Whereas the games against Manchester United and Everton, it caused our defence to come a bit unstuck, and our ideas in the final third were quite lacking at times. So now that we've played against Southampton, we've beaten West Ham, and now won away at Leeds, those games in particular have showed us that this team is capable of producing some really high quality football. And I think that the introduction of players like Gabriel Martinelli, the removal of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and putting Alexandre Lacazette into the team and what he brings to the team is also helping a lot. Ironically, people talk and want to, a lot of the time there's a lot of criticism of Granit Xhaka, but his return to the team has coincided with a lot more control of the ball from midfield, which I think maybe will go under the radar and people won't want to really give Granit Xhaka the credit. And trust me, I want to see us upgrade on Granit Xhaka. I would love to see us bring in a better player than Granit Xhaka, but he has kind of added that element of control to the midfield. And then we just talk about Martin Odegaard, who is just a brilliant footballer who I still find people wanting to discredit him because it's difficult to be wrong. We understand this, and it's difficult to hold your hands up and say about a player that you thought wasn't very good or that you weren't particularly enjoying playing that when they're, turning around their form, when they're becoming a lot better and they're showing you why they deserve to be in the side, it's very hard to throw your hands up and say, okay, look, fair enough. He's proven me wrong. And so that's why I think you still very much enjoy the fact from our side of things when, you're proven right. But from the other side, it's obviously a very difficult thing to hold your hands up and say, you know what, I got this wrong about Martin Ødegaard and he is a very, very good player. I hope that we're starting to see more from Thomas Partey. I hope that we're starting to see a lot more of him and what he's capable of. Again, it wasn't outstanding and you want him to be, but it wasn't a bad game from him, to be honest. I did say Martinelli can't. I didn't say Martinelli can't play as a striker, Nicholas. I said that I think that I'd rather see him play in a wider position, and I still do. I wanted him to be on the ball a lot more. I want him running in behind like we saw several times yesterday. I want him playing that wide forward position where he cuts in, gets that ball through from Lacazette or Ødegaard, whoever it is, and he's through. And all of those goals that he scores has been from him playing off of that left-hand side. And I think, if anything, it goes to prove that point further, that he needs to be playing on the left. He needs to be that supportive figure that's a difference between a winger and a wide forward is that a wide forward is certainly someone that gets into the box, that wants to drive towards goals, score goals. Whereas a winger, there's more creation about their game. There's more width to their game. Someone that stays in a wider position rather than getting into the box as much and likes to cross a bit more. Whereas the wide forwards, or your right or left forwards, prefer to be a little bit more attacking and direct with their runs. Let's jump into the chat box and see what you guys are saying. George Davis says, it's funny, I was against Ødegaard. I wanted Maddison. I was wrong. I thought he wasn't playing well this season and he just wasn't for me. But now I'm actually in love. Axelrod says, I love the look. I love Saka, but our forwards have to defend. Look at the penalty we gave away. Also, the Gray goal versus us. Neither of Emile Smith-Rowe or Saka were defending it. It came through our right. We were 5 versus 6 or 7. No, look, there's always room for improvement in any team, and you want to see your wingers certainly get back and try and defend. But Saka is, as we have to remember, still a 20-year-old kid. He's not the finished article. And if we want to criticise his defensive game, I'm fine with that. Because if what he's producing in the offensive third of the pitch at 20 years of age is still brilliant, then I haven't got too much to say regarding as he gets older and maturer, he will improve the defensive side of his game. So I think that's a really important point to hang on, because we forget how young he still is. Says that, Tom, do you think that Balogun should be tried with this current team still? And the answer is yes. I still do think he should be getting some minutes. I feel like he should be on the bench at least and being brought on for Lacazette at certain points in the games. But in terms of starting, no, I would go back on that now and say that Lacazette's come into the team and really impressed. What I would say is that at the time, when we were really talking about Balogun playing in the first team, it was more because Aubameyang was being so poor and Lacazette was playing in that position kind of behind him, or he just wasn't in the team whatsoever. That was the real push for Balogun, because we were creating chances and they weren't being taken. Saying that, Lacazette, again, needs to be better with his chance, with how clinical he is, because he's missing some big chances. Right at the beginning of the game, fantastic pass played through to him, can't take the shot. Another pass played through onto the left flank by Ødegaard. I think Ødegaard could have had 2 assists from Lacazette once again. Didn't take those opportunities. Really frustrating that he's not. And I think that does go to show that we need to be bringing in that striker as soon as possible. Whether that's in January, we'll have to wait and see. But it does show that we need some more clinical-minded finishing in the final third. King says, Tom, how do we put Martin Ødegaard, the Smith, Starboy Saka and Sexy Gabby in the team at the same time? King, you don't have to. One of the benefits is that you can rotate players, is that you can take Ødegaard out against Sunderland and bring in Smith-Rowe, and you can bring in other players. You can bring Nicolas Pepe in against Sunderland, and then when we go and play Norwich, you can rotate things again. We play against Man City on New Year's Day, should that go ahead. We'll have a different setup and a different team. It's not about fitting them all into the same team, as you see with Manchester City, with Phil Foden and Grealish and Mahrez and Sterling and Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva. It's not about fitting everyone in the team. It's about rotating and playing your best team at the right time. And to be honest, Smith-Rowe, does he start? It's difficult to say you put him in over either of Martinelli or Ødegaard right now. But him coming off the bench and scoring goals is still good, and you're still giving him minutes on the field. I expect Smith Rowe to start the game against Sunderland because he's not been starting too many games of late. And that's fine. Like, it's fine if you don't necessarily start Smith Rowe in these games, because it means that you can bring him on. It means that you can get him to fight more for that place. He's signed a new contract. He's not under any pressure to be given more minutes. He's fine doing what he's doing. And I'm loving the fact there's so much competition for places in the team. Henry Gooner says, Ødegaard is top class. Everyone that sits around me loves him. Like most people in the ground, they just get behind the team. Rich says, I think that with Laka most likely moving on in the summer, we defo need to get a striker like him as a priority, but they need to be a bit more clinical. Laka does an amazing job, though. Steve Stone says, I was worried about Gabby not getting enough minutes and publicly called for him to go on loan in January. What do I... Hey, Steve, look, you weren't the only one. There are a lot of people suggesting that if Martinelli's not going to play, he needs to go out on loan because he wasn't playing. And I actually criticised Arteta, I think fairly, for not giving him more minutes from the bench, because all we were seeing from Martinelli is like 1 minute here, 5 minutes there, another 1 minute cameo. You could have given him more time. I don't think that's a ridiculous criticism to have. What I would say is that I think Arteta, in terms of the timing of giving him that time to start, has been done, as you would see from what we're seeing on the pitch, pretty perfectly. I don't think you can criticise Arteta too much for the way that he's handled the amount of starts he's giving Martinelli because of the benefits that we're seeing right now. What I think is a fair criticism is the lack of kind of substitute appearances that we were seeing from Martinelli, especially in games where we needed a goal. That's where I would have been more critical of what was going on. Let's scroll down a little bit further. Nico, your thoughts on Tomiyasu's performance? I think I've seen a lot of people on Twitter say in the last 24 hours or so that he's probably the best signing of the summer for any team in any league, for the amount of money that he cost and what he's given to that position for our team. And you can't really disagree with that, can you? He has been absolutely fantastic. He's just been by far arguably our best player since signing. Of all the players that we've signed and brought in, I know that Smith Rowe's been great this season. I think that Martinelli's been fantastic in this brief period. Saka, of course, has been good. I love what Lokonga's done. I think Gabriel's been brilliant. Ramsdale, of course, is mercurial in the way he is between the sticks. But Tomiyasu, I genuinely think there is an argument to say consistently across the whole season has been our best player so far in all the games that he's played. You can't really fault too much. He had a bit of a tricky time against Brighton. And I thought that maybe against United, he was a little bit... That's probably the worst game he played was probably against United or the Brighton game. But the margins are fine because he's had such a consistent level of performance for so many games. And for 15 to 20 million quid, what a signing. And fair play to the scouting department who, chose to sign a player that's neither a right back or a centre back. Not really sure what he is. So there you go. And says, do you think Xhaka is good enough leader for this team? For me, he makes a mistake or a rash decision in most games. He does. And look, there's a really strong argument to say that he could have been sent off in that game. I think what saved him was the placement of his foot. It wasn't on the player's shin. It was on his ankle, which tends to allow players to get away with things. But it could have been a red card. What I would say is if you're not sending off Gordon for his tackle on Nuno Tavares at Everton, you can't send off Xhaka for that tackle. It's about consistency. And if you're not going to send off a player in the game, in the Everton game, then you're not going to send off Xhaka in this game. It would be ridiculous. And that's what it would have been compared to, is the Gordon tackle on Nuno Tavares that wasn't punished whatsoever. So, yeah, he does get the ball, but I think it's borderline. And to be honest, if that happened to an Arsenal player, as it did with Nuno Tavares, then I would be calling for a red card. So I think there was an element of fortune there. But you would say that if we weren't given the decision against Everton, it's kind of now balanced out because of the decision that Granit Xhaka had on Rafinha, I think it was. Olu says, Lacazette improved everyone. He plays like a deep-lying forward and it allows runners off of him. We need to bring in a striker in January. I really like the look of Isaac. He is quick, technical, and strong. Social says, sounds like you're in a concert hall, Tom. Mike has gone funny. Oh, apologies. I hope that it's fine. I'm using this one, so apologies if it's not great, but I can't do much at the moment until I sort a new mic out, so you're going to have to deal with this one. Mo, is there any news on Tommy's muscular strain? There isn't anything specific that I can tell you beyond Arteta's press conference. As far as we're aware, he was taken off as a precaution, and he'll go through a scan, and then we'll find out. He's got a week off now. He's not going to play against Sunderland. He will be in recovery, and hopefully he'll be available on Boxing Day. That's what we've got to hope for. But yeah, hopefully he can have a week off and he'll be fine. He looked like it was precautionary. I wouldn't expect it. What I would say is that Cedric's performance when he came on is a concern. And that if we do lose Tomiyasu, there's a real worry that we've got a player that is going to cost us. I'd be selling Cedric in January. I'd be looking to move on Callum Chambers. I'd be bringing in a right back in January, if it's possible. Because if we lose Tomiyasu, we're in trouble. And that's a real concern for us, that we could be in real trouble if Tomiyasu gets injured. And he has missed games for Bologna. That is a problem, and certainly something that Arsenal need to be mindful of. Mogos says, do we need to address the right-back situation? Cedric is not cut out for it. If Mainsley is unwilling to play there, we need to sign a backup. I think I've just answered that. Yeah, I think we do, Mogos. Khalid says, Tom, are you happy with Ben White? He seems to have a mistake or lack of concentration about him. Look, he went full Mustafi with the penalty. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I don't know why you're diving in quite like that. I know that you look at the game state with 3-0 up, you think you can probably go in for a tackle just in case that if it is a penalty, we're 3-0 up with 15 minutes to go. But you need to keep your head in those scenarios. I was surprised that Ramsdale congratulated him so frivolously because it was a clear and blatant penalty. Yeah, it was a bit odd. Obviously, it's not one that is going to let us define Ben White's early career. I think Ben White's been really good for Arsenal. But I think that error that we saw there is, I don't think, maybe it's the fact that clearly Ben White doesn't like this third kit. He doesn't play very well in this third kit, does he? Brentford away and now Leeds away haven't been the best of performances in the lightning bolt kit for Ben White. I don't know what it is, strange superstitions, but yeah, he had a bit of Mustafi about that tackle, and it wasn't that good. Matt G says people are being too hard on White. Yes, it was a rash tackle, but he's been part of our backline that's conceded 1 goal in 3 games, and it's very true. I think we've kept 4 clean sheets in the last 4 home games: Southampton, Newcastle, Watford, and who am I missing? West Ham, of course. So. Yeah, and he's been part of all of those games, and he's played really, really well. That's what I'm saying. I don't think people are necessarily being too hard. I think it's fair to be critical of that challenge, and I think it was very rash, but he has been solid for us this season. And I think, some fans just want to attack him because he was signed by Arteta, and it's a way to bash Arteta. So that's also one. Zander says, think White played the occasion rather than the game. Possibly so. Karim says, do you think Ben White could play in midfield? No, I don't. Daniel says, I'm happy Ben White made that error in a game that we were winning in. Hopefully it's one that we can just get out of his system. But it's good that he can now, he's going to get that analysed off the field. They're going to go into detail. He's going to get criticised. He's going to get the feedback that he needs after the game. So hopefully he doesn't make that mistake again. Social says, I like Benjamin. He just needs to get off of his slip and slide sometimes. Venkatesh says, it's nice to see Emil scoring half chances with such a low XG tally. You think fans might criticise him in future if he stopped scoring at the same rate, considering we gave excuses for Aubameyang not getting the chances. Look, Emil Smith-Rowe is making his own luck right now, and I think that's what we've seen from certain of the best players in the league. You often find themselves making their own luck, and you see that in the XG stats, making goals for themselves, making runs like Smith-Rowe's done. But you have to say that the finish is good. It's a half volley. He gets all the power he can. Meslier has not much chance. The chipped assist from Ødegaard is just brilliant. Like the little dig over the defenders that you can't really block that because it's not going on the ground, and it's perfectly weighted so that he can have that type of finish on the half volley. Man, so good. So good. Dan says, Tom, what was your favourite goal yesterday? The Emil Smith-Rowe goal made me so happy. I love the Smith-Rowe goal because of the assist from Ødegaard as well. Martinelli's second and the chip and the pass from Xhaka to set him through. It was kind of a bit like, it was a bit of an anti-Arsenal goal. And what I mean by that is just, it's not what we've seen. We haven't seen Xhaka be direct enough at times of his passing. And Martinelli sometimes can be a little bit rash in his decision-making, especially with his shot taking, like we saw the shot he missed against Manchester United when he was set up by Ødegaard. Sometimes he can be a little bit rash, he panics, but that was a mature finish. And I like that because it was it showed a difference. It showed kind of an anti to the criticisms of both players' kind of game. Xhaka not being direct enough, Martinelli not being calm enough with his finishing. So I think that actually that was really important to see that type of goal, and hopefully it sets the tone for Martinelli. We saw clinicalness against West Ham. We saw it against Newcastle, and hopefully we'll see it again in the upcoming fixtures as well. If he says it's not been harsh on White, you don't make that kind of tackle in the box. When Odegaard did that against United, we all slated him as well. Look, I think we've all been critical. I think what's harsh on White is the criticisms of the overall performances of the season. I think is what's been harsh. But there you go. Tom, what's your opinion on people comparing Martinelli to Sanchez? My opinion is calm down. just calm down. We don't need to get into Alexis Sanchez territory. The kid's 20 years old. He's having a great few games. Let's see him, improve this going forwards. We don't need to talk about Martinelli in regards of Alexis Sanchez. It's very, very different. Trevor says, I thought Nuno could play maybe at right back. Look, it may be something that we have to consider because the options at right back are concerning, to say the least. Axel says, Ben White can play at right back, maybe at DM. He has played that role at Brighton. Again, I wouldn't play him in DM. I would play him at a push at right back if we need to. And maybe that's something that next season we look at with Saliba coming back. If Saliba's coming back, you've got Ben White that can play as a backup right back if you need him to. Saliba too has played at right back for Marseille. So there is the option for those to play that game. Let's scroll down a bit more. Rich says, Tom, Laka pointed to Martinelli for that second goal when he was next to Xhaka, assuming he shouted to pass it to him as well. Loved it. Ronald said, fixing the midfield is very important. We need 2 starting centre midfielders in the summer. Partey seems to be stuck giving 4 to 6 out of 10s. Shahul says, Emil Smith-Rowe had such a tight space to get the shot away and it got the keeper by surprise. The presence of mind to do that was fire. Mogul says, Gabby's strength and composure in the second goal was impressive. Ayat says, what are the chances of us getting Rafinha from Leeds? Quite small. I think he's going to go to Liverpool. Christopher says, Tom, who's better, Aubameyang or Chuba Akpom? Wow, the disrespect is real. Gooner says, are people judging Partey or Partey more harshly because he gave himself a 4 out of 10? No, I don't think so. I think he's been about a 4 out of 10. He's not been good enough. And this is coming from someone that was desperate to see Thomas Partey be brilliant. I think it's really important as someone who obviously creating content, you're speaking about players, you're going to have likings. If Arsenal signed Dominic Szoboszlai, a player that I absolutely adore, and he wasn't cutting it, I would have to sit here and be very honest about his performance and say that he's not being good enough. The same with Thomas Partey. I absolutely loved him at Atletico Madrid. I was desperate for us to sign him. I thought he was going to be world-class. He's not been world-class for us. I believe him to be a world-class player and has that quality within him, but we're not seeing that. And so you've got to be fair in your criticisms. I've not seen enough from Thomas Partey to tell me that the 45 million investment that we paid for him has been returned as of yet. It needs to be better. It needs to be consistent. Yes, he's had injuries. Yes, I think there's context to his problems, but I think we need to demand more of Thomas Partey. And quite rightly, he has criticised his own performances. And that's a positive, that the player can recognise his own failings. So I think that's also going to be key. Yes, for Food and Travel says, biggest critic of Odegaard, but he sat me down for the last 3 games and I'll accept it when he proves me wrong. Let's see at the end of the season, and Cedric worries me too. Fair play to you for holding your hands up, mate. The shift says, I think Cedric needs some game time to ship him off, so this was the perfect game to do so. We don't want experienced players just collecting paychecks and not repaying it, and hopefully he'll again have a chance to show the suitors that could buy him in January what he could bring against Sunderland. Sam says, morning beautiful. Now that Zambia has obviously tested positive, are you more worried about the AFCON? No Partey or El Neni, only Xhaka or Ainsley Maitland-Niles potentially in a week or 2. Hopefully he'll be over that by the time we hit the January window. The concern is that he wasn't isolated soon enough. The concern is, with also Pablo Mari testing positive, is that we're going to find ourselves have an outbreak ahead of the Norwich game. We can only hope that doesn't happen and that the players are, quite rightly doing all the things they need to do to stay away from others, and they're being given the right guidance. We don't have an outbreak, but half of English football has had outbreaks at clubs, and we're very fortunate that we've not had to deal with that so far. Saying that, we've got 2 players that have tested positive. So, and we've had members of staff that have tested positive as well. So we have to hope that this doesn't continue to affect us moving forwards. We've gone for 25 minutes. We're going to go for a few more. I don't start work till a little bit later on this morning, so I'm happy to go for a few more minutes during and answering your questions. Do drop a like on the video, guys, if you haven't done so already. We're nearly at 28,000 subs, as I said at the start of the show. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please make sure you do. We're very, very close to hitting that 28,000 milestone. So help us out. And yeah, press that button and hit the notification bell so you never miss a show. Let's scroll down a bit more to the most recent comments in the chat. Thomas Baker says, does Pepe have a place in this squad? Would he accept a bit part role? He has a place in the squad on Tuesday against Sunderland, but in terms of the Premier League team, no. He doesn't have a place in the team. And quite rightly, he doesn't deserve to be in the side right now. He doesn't get in ahead of any of the players that we've got currently playing. Martinelli, quite rightly, has gone ahead of him in the pecking order into those wider positions. Smith Rowe, Erdegaard, Saka are all above Pepe, quite rightly, in the pecking order. And is he going to accept a bit part role? I doubt it. He's 26. He's going to want to be playing as much football as possible. We need to look to move him on and try and get as much money for him as feasibly possible. But it's going to be really difficult. Neil, if you want to know my lineup for the Sunderland game, tune into our preview show tomorrow. But it's going to be interesting, Neil, as to which kind of combinations of players you're going to see from our members. Our members in the Discord server will be doing a show tomorrow afternoon. I need to check on the time. But if you want to come on the show, on the preview show, then join our Discord server by becoming a member with the link in the description. Jonathan says, would love to see Balogun start against Sunderland. So would I. But I feel that it will be Eddie. So do I. PlaySport says, what's the update on Tomiyasu? Again, we know nothing more than it's just a precaution to be taken off and that he'll have a scan. Hopefully, it's only a minor problem. Joe Eldridge says, should we be looking towards the youth team to cement strength in the first team? They know how we play, and promoting youth seems to be working. But it does. I would say that you still need to find that balance. You need to have experienced figures in the side. So if we lose Aubameyang and Lacazette, we're probably going to have to sign an experienced player. I like the idea of a Gini Wijnaldum on loan for 6 months in January. If that's possible, it makes a lot of sense. He brings a lot of experience. I know that it got a lot of criticism, but there are a number of players at centre-back that Arsenal could look to bring in the summer, because Callum Chambers, Rob Holding could be off. We're bringing in Saliba, who's only 20. You could look to some other players that are across Europe that are running out of contracts, that aren't going to be very expensive. James Tarkowski at Burnley, and Matthias Ginter at Borussia Mönchengladbach. And there's one other that I suggested that I can't remember. It's completely slipped my mind. But there are a number of centre-backs that are more experienced that could be brought in on the cheap, so we can focus investment in other areas of the pitch that wouldn't be too bad and would bring that needed experience that we're lacking in certain positions. Zana says, if you could swap Aubameyang for one of the 3 Juve players, who would you choose? Kulusevski, Artur, or McKennie? I wouldn't swap him for Kulusevski. Not that I don't rate the guy, and I'm still looking to do a tactical breakdown on him. I've just had no time with the scheduling of fixtures. Hopefully I'm going to do one this coming week. Artur, I also like, but I just have concerns about his injury record. And McKennie, I know that I believe Drew really did like McKennie from his time at Schalke. I don't know how much he's playing. He is still 23. He would fall within that bracket of kind of the age profile that we're looking at. He's played 12 games this season, scored 2 goals in Serie A, 827 minutes. He's starting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games of those 12. And he's had some knee issues this season too. So, I mean, I like McKennie. I like Artur. Either of those two, I think, would be fine swaps. But I think it shows that we're going to have to move on Aubameyang at some point, and that's the issue that we find. Dan says, Tom, are you going to do a half-season review and rate all the players so far? Good idea, Dan. We probably will do that around the Christmas period. I was thinking how we could do kind of a Christmas special show, but I'm not sure we're going to be able to put one together, but we'll see. Maybe we'll be able to do something. Adonis says we should discipline Xhaka internally for what he did yesterday. His actions could have cost us Fine him, send the money to Rafinha. Adonis, I don't think so. That's not really how things work in clubs. Glad you're not in charge. Asmarom says, Tom, do you see a route in the first team in the midfield for the likes of Miguel Aziz, Charlie Patino, Salah? It seems like Emil Smith-Rowe and Saka are progressing well compared to buying players like Pepe. Look, I absolutely see a route, especially in midfield, because players like Maitland-Niles, El Neni's futures are uncertain. We need to be bringing through the youth. Patino and Salah definitely should have futures at the club. Aziz, I'm less sure about. His loan has had me a bit concerned at times with some of his performances and the lack of minutes he's been getting. But there's always the hope that he can be given some time. And who knows, he could come alive when given chances in the first team. That's always something that you don't always expect to happen. I mean, you think about Bukayo Saka, Reece Nelson was always thought of as kind of that real exciting talent that was going to be coming through in the wide areas. And Bukayo Saka was really thought of not on that same kind of pedestal at one point. And very quickly it became obvious that Saka was going to be the big talent coming out of the youth academy. So we'll wait and see. But some players can surprise and others can surprise in completely other different reasons. So there you go. Let's get the likes up in the chat box, people. If you haven't done so already, please do smash that like thumbs up button too. Akinola, yeah, has had a very good season, a very versatile player who can play in defence as well. Gooner says, after the Norwich game, we could potentially be on 35 points going into the new season. That's halfway with a really good points tally. Look, if we get 70 points by the end of the season, that would stand us in really good stead to get into the top four. If we can maintain that kind of form, it will be difficult. And we're going to have some big games. But it's very possible. Very, very, very possible. Tim, can you invite some Villa fans so we can pick up the conversation on when they signed Buendia and became a bigger club than Arsenal? Oh, dearie me. Nadine says we are in such a good position compared to previous seasons. Points are better than games in hand. If Man United and Spurs win their games, will you be as happy where we may stand in the table? Look, it's going to put us back into 6th place, is what it's going to do, if they all win all their games in hand. But I'd rather have the points in the bag. Would I swap where we're at right now and the games that those two teams have missed? I'm not sure, because I like having the idea of points in the bag, knowing the games that we've won. We could end up dropping, but we could have easily dropped all the points if we'd have had games in hand. We haven't. We've picked up the points. We've won our last 3 games. Huge win against West Ham. Absolutely massive. So I kind of like where we are. I like that we've accepted this amount of points, that we've played all the games that we can play, and that we could, as people say, be sitting on 35 points on Boxing Day, which would be a really, really good place to be in, considering that on Boxing Day last season, I think we were, after the win against Chelsea, like 11th? I think we went into that game something like 16th in the table. So it's an amazing turnaround. The progression from last season to this season at this point is huge, but it doesn't matter, because the only thing that matters is where we are at the end of the season. That's, I think, where we're at. Joe says, are we pretty much all in agreement that Aubameyang isn't getting back into this team? I think we all are. I don't think there's many people that would suggest otherwise. David says, the Odegaard setup for Smith-Rowe was sublime. Neil says it would be very interesting to see where we are when we play Man City. Look, I'm still going into that game with little to no expectation. I hopefully want to see it. My only expectation is that we play better than we did at the Etihad. But that should be an absolute given, considering we had no Tomiyasu, no Ben White, no Gabriel. Martinelli, I think, got some minutes, but it's not the Martinelli we have now. We got a new midfield. We didn't have Partey for that game. Obviously, Xhaka got sent off. Kieran Tierney, I remember, did play, but was not in the same form that he is now. We didn't have Ramsdale either. It's a very different team to the one that lost 5-0 at the Etihad. And hopefully we can put on a very good performance. Our home form has been, a bit of the saving grace of the season. Our away form has cost us at times. Man United, Everton, Brentford, City, Brighton. But at home, we've been really, really good. So hopefully that will give us something to go into that game. It's going to be electric. It's going to be, the atmosphere will hopefully be mad if there are indeed fans still there, depending on this lockdown situation that we keep finding ourselves threatened with. Fingers crossed, it's going to be a great game and we can offer something. We're going to wrap things up there. There is going to be a podcast a little bit later on this evening, 8 o'clock tonight. I'll be joined by Drew and Owen and John to talk all about Leeds and look ahead to the next week's worth of action. So do put your alarms set, 8 p.m. UK time for all of that goodness. Thank you so much, everyone that's tuning into the chat. Sorry I can't go through all your questions. There's been so many of you, as there always is. Over 600 of you tuning in this morning. Thanks so much. Do drop a like on the video. Do subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. We're nearly at 28,000. And do check out all of the content over on the Arsenal Way. Link is in the description for the Arsenal Way, which is a channel that you should all be subscribed to if you're not already. We're very close to 6,000 subs over there. So please indeed do hit that subscription button on both of the channels. Thanks so much for your support, guys, as always. And as always, up the Arsenal.